Hey, welcome to the sisterhood, Katie and Erica. We are so glad that you both are here talking homeschooling today. You are master homeschoolers. You are amazing women. And we are so excited because we get to learn from you both today. So let's start. Erica, we're going to start with you because you and I are the ones that don't know each other in person. Alex and I know Katie in person. But tell us a little bit about you, who you live with, where you live in the world, and what your routine is.
So I am Army wife, homeschooling mom. I'm a former high school science teacher and public health educator. So I've done it both in the classroom and then on a wide scale community basis. And then we started homeschooling. I think it was always in the back of my mind that we would homeschool. My husband, not so much because he knew how, I don't like to call myself a nerd, but I mean, he knew how nerdy I was. So he was like, okay, you're just going to keep going and going and going until you get all of the degrees. You know what I mean? So he just thought that I would keep, pursuing that career. And fast forward a little bit, our son, Nathan, was diagnosed with autism. He's on the high functioning side of we call it the rainbow. He's on the high functioning side. And we also refer to him as our beautiful mind kiddo because his mind truly is beautiful and it just works in like this wondrous way. But so that's what really pulled me out of the classroom. And I said, okay, I have to give him a learning environment that is conducive to his learning styles, what he's going to be able to, pick up and run with, like really encourage him to be the great little kid that I knew, like the tiny human, the great tiny human that I knew that he could be. And so now he's headed off to college here in a few days. But so I started jumping on YouTube and playing around a little bit because I didn't see any families that looked like us, that had the special mind or beautiful mind kiddos, or I don't like to say special needs, but some people are okay with that. But I wanted him to always think of his mind as something, that God gave him. And, it's only his and it's unique. And so it works in a unique way. But anyways, I talk too much, so you just have to cut me off. Okay, Chris? So that's how I ended up with the whole YouTube thing going on. And then that led to the blogging and the vlogging, the daily things. I think that you guys might have seen us in action. Alex, maybe with my homeschool principal over here with some of his shenanigans going on. So, yeah, so we live with, I'm sorry, I do talk so much. I just remembered, I didn't remember, I didn't forget the babies, but I have 4 kiddos at home. I have an adult kiddo and a daughter-in-law who are down in Alabama. We are new to Virginia. And so far, so good, other than the mosquitoes. They're trying to tote us off. If you go out after 6 p.m. and you get, attacked by the mosquitoes. But other than that, we're good. We're year-round homeschoolers. We take breaks here and there. And that's just us in a nutshell. Just a bunch of, busy bees roaming around.
I love it. So good. Thank you, Erica. All right, Katie, give us a little rundown of you, sister.
I'm Katie Westenberg, and I'm from Washington State. And I've been married for 19 years and I have 4 kids, and we didn't really intend to homeschool. I had a great school experience, most of that in private school, and we just kind of expected, we live in that same area, so I expected to do that same thing. But we did have a few homeschooling families who kind of chartered before us, which drew our attention because they did it well. It didn't look like we thought it had when we were kids. We thought that's different. And so then just looking ahead at the cost of private education for our kids, and we knew we were going to have a bigger family. I was pregnant with my 3rd and we'd sent our oldest to preschool there. We thought, what would this look like if we did something different? So really it was experimental. We'll try it for 1 year. Like, how bad can I mess up a kindergartner, right? And so and, I find that so many homeschoolers are like that. There's some of them that have like life challenges or they move a lot that they need to do, but so many of them are just, I'll try it for 1 year. I can't commit to 18 years of this. But now my oldest is going into 10th grade. And then I have a 12-year-old, 10-year-old, and 8-year-old. And we've never stopped. It's been a real blessing to our family.
Well, so Katie, jump in a little bit on that. You said it's been a real blessing to your family. Let's talk about the positives of homeschooling that maybe a lot of people haven't thought of.
Quite a few, but you have 4 kids and you want them involved in activities. I kind of had this plan that each kid could be in activity, but then it's, do you want them to play an instrument or a sport? And even if just one of them or each of them is in one activity, that is a lot. And so just scheduling where we can do our school in the morning and have our afternoon free for those things. And if we mess up dinner time, it's not as big of a deal because we did spend time together during the day. Just that freedom has been wonderful. I'm probably a bit of a nerd too, Erica. So just learning these things again myself, because I didn't pay really good attention in high school, right? You know, how much of that so to go through a chronological timeline or whatever and do it beside my kids, they don't realize that I'm just learning as I go half the time. And it's a blessing to read these books with a 10th grader. And then just lastly, it's sanctifying. It is hard as a mom. I mean, we'll get to those challenges, I'm sure. And there's selfish nature in me that gets weeded out. There's frustrations and impatience in me. So it's definitely a sanctifying process. And that's not easy, but it is good.
Mm-hmm. So good. Erica, what would you say are the benefits?
Just the joy that it brings. And I know that sounds so cliche, but with our kiddos, I get to see all of those aha moments. And I don't get to be the one to say no. And I can speak to this because I'm a former, public school teacher, and there were so many ideas that my kiddos would have in the classroom. And they would say, okay, can we try this, this, and this? And I'm like, well, no, because it's not really on our schedule, because at that point there was this Common Core shift. And so we had to stick to what was required for, those good test scores. Like you literally had a printout back then of what you needed to teach in order to, push your school up to the top of the list as far as the testing goes. But here, if we're in the middle of something and one of my kiddos says, Mommy, I really need to take this a little bit, over here with this, like I want to look at the genetic side of this, or whatever. Like I have one kiddo, Miss Kennedy, she's 11, but she's my big brain baby. She's in 8th grade, and we have been splicing all of the genes, guys, you know what I mean, like the Human Genome Project.
Oh my gosh,
all of these things. Like she's just, and those are things that I know that she just wouldn't be able to do in a public school. And, not to say that there's anything wrong with public school. Like I said, I'm a product of public school. I've worked there. So I'm not, down in that at all. But just those aha moments, watching their little faces light up and being able to tailor their schooling now to what they want to be, because we always tell our kiddos, you have to practice for what you want to be in life. And so I'm able to, we have one who wants to be an attorney. So we're doing that now. We're throwing all of the civil rights law at her right now, because that's her big thing. She really wants to dig deep into civil rights. So that's what we're working on now. And that's my happy right now. And like Katie was saying, like just that, you get tired, and we will talk about the challenges, but it's, for me, the good days far outweigh the bad days. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I can be having the worst day, and then I feel a little tug on my sweatpants, because let's keep it real, or my PJs, okay? Because there are days that I wake up running and there's no makeup, there's, just nothing. But just sometimes it might be that same sweatshirt that I went to bed in, but I'm there and I'm present. And I've noticed that my kiddos don't really care. You know what I mean? Like they don't care. It's just mommy, and they want me in that moment. So to have that and just to be with them, and I don't have to like just say goodbye and then them come home and tell me about the things that they did that day. I get to witness it. And most of the time I have a camera rolling for it. So I get to relive it over and over again. So sorry guys, go ahead. I talk a lot.
Well, I'll say, having experienced my kids being at home, and not in a traditional homeschool way, but in a COVID closed our schools, and we went to kind of online school in the spring. What I loved was the time that my kids had together. We're busy. We have 4 kids running in 4 different directions, and I feel like I'm split in about 100 different directions. And the pace of life that slowed down was a benefit that I think we're going to continue to see in the coming months, because my kids are public school kids, and our public school district, we are definitely home full time through the middle of October at least. Though we have been told, anticipate it will be longer. So we're really kind of preparing through January is our the mental game we've got going on. But so we will talk about some of the strategies, but I am looking forward to that slower pace, my kids getting better sleep. They actually exercise more, the younger ones, because they can take a break and run outside and go on their bike for half an hour, and it's okay. And just of course, the relationships that they are building with each other because we're just home more together.
Can we talk a little bit about how you both schedule your day? Just what, I mean, that I think is the most practical. You know, if someone is, let's say a mom is working part-time from home now or working full-time from home, and she's also trying to help her kids do their schooling. Can you give us some suggestions on how to set up a schedule, even with parameters? So let's say a mom is using the online schooling the school has provided, or maybe she's got work to do as well. Katie, do you want to start us?
Yeah, these kind of vary from school to school because they set this up differently. But I can tell you that the teachers, if you're transitioning to schooling at home with a public or private school teacher, they're out there for your success too. Most of them are parents. And so they're trying to manage their job at home while they're teaching too. I have teaching friends and they talk about how complicated this is. They're trying to help these parents while they manage their own kids. So that's one thing I've noticed in this season is that we're all a little more forgiving of each other. We're all trying to figure this out. So I would say, first of all, have grace with yourself and know that the teachers are wanting the same thing of you. Practically, when I'm at home, I work with the youngest kids first. So I get the oldest kids working independently because when I didn't do it that way, I lost those little ones. They'd go off and play happily. And then I notice it's noon and lunchtime and I didn't do reading or whatever. They can just, when they learn to play independently, they can just go and take off. So I work with them first and check it off the list because sometimes that intense one-on-one time is only 15 or 20 minutes that I need right now. Maybe they'll be reading or something later. But if I can get them off and get the bigger kids working independently, and each year that changes as my kids are at different levels, but I find like, where are my independent spots that I can work with this kid to make sure I get some alone time, because 4 kids coming at you at once is overwhelming at times. And then the other thing is just, I try to stay ahead of them. Like I get up early. And I have one kid that likes to get up at 6 a.m. and get on a book. And that's super weird, but everyone gets one of those, right? And so then, okay, then you do this independent, but I know where their independent spots are. When they're really little, they don't have a ton of those independent spots. So then it's more like, here's Play-Doh independently, make a mess of my floor or whatever. But finding those spots where I can work, some can work independently so I can work individually with the other ones.
So Katie, when you say you stay ahead of them, can you just flesh out what that means?
First of all, mentally, right? I know how this day is going to go. And a lot of it is consistency. Kids like consistency. And me as a mom, I need consistency. Not every mom's that way. Some people fly by the seat of their pants. If I fly by the seat of my pants, it doesn't get done. So it's scheduling out the day. It's knowing that, okay, we're going to do, if we have a hard stop at 9 a.m. to do some Bible time. I mean, when you're in school, when the kids are gone at school, can you do Bible time at 9 a.m.? Like never. So now we have this where this is our hard stop and this is what it's going to look like. So when I have that consistency in the schedule, they know then we move here. And there's definitely shaping of routines that is not easy. We all have to settle into this, but once we do it for a while, then they kind of get moving in that direction and it all becomes a little bit easier.
Have you had to shift your routine, and how have you gotten kids into a new routine? Because if kids aren't used to it, they, especially let's say like the older kids, the teenagers or the middle schoolers who are pushing back on that a little bit, like they'll fall into the normal school routine, but they don't want to fall into this new homeschool routine. Do you have any tips on that?
Patience. I mean, moms don't want to fall into the new routine, right? They're kind of just like us. It's hard when I like doing this before. I liked getting my morning workout in the morning, and now they're all converging on me. So it's just patience. It's practice. I mean, this is real life skills that they're going to have to learn, right? This is coming at all of us, and we have to adjust and we have to adapt. So I want them to know that. So rather than just pushing back at them, like, what's wrong with you? Why can't you get this? It's like, this is a skill. This is its own skill that might be more important in real life than your math on most days. Can you adjust? Can you pivot when the world makes a choice for you that you didn't make? But here we are, and we got to make the best of it. And I think as they get older, it's just relating that to them. I'm feeling this too, okay? I didn't choose this, but here we are, and how are we going to do it well? How are we going to glorify God and what's been put in front of us?
Mm-hmm. So good.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's the real life skills that they are going to take with them. And, you know, people are already talking about how is this generation going to be shaped by these unique circumstances. And I think they're going to be shaped in ways that are going to make them empathetic, flexible, independent. I mean, it is a little bit of God's way of stopping the helicopter parenting in some regards, because we have to let go of some things. And as parents who like to micromanage schedules and activities and all of that, we've had to let go of that, and they're watching how we do it. And that's the hard part, is remembering that they are watching and we are teaching through our examples, good or bad.
Yeah.
Erica, how about you? What is how do you really schedule your days, and what does that look like in your house, and how would you encourage moms?
So I basically live by because I have a type A personality, right? So everything, I want to check all of the blocks. If I'm not careful, I'll list out all of the things and I have to check them all off. And so I was getting to a point early on where I would like start to experience burnout. And so I called my Grammy one day, and being the fine Southern woman that she was, she said to me, honey, you have to keep it simple, sweetie. You do what you do. And when you need to stop, you stop and you pray. When you feel your knees buckling, because they're going to buckle, because at the time that I was really going through it, my husband was deployed to Afghanistan. I had a fresh baby who I was breastfeeding. And then we had just got the diagnosis for Nathan. And so then I had the two girls in between. So I had all of these little kids at once, because they're kind of close in age. I have 17, 15, 11, and 7. So the older two are close in age. But it was a lot. And so I realized at that moment that I had to keep it simple, sweetie. And I had to come up with something that would work for all of us. And Katie kind of hit it just a little bit. I use this round robin approach, and it's very similar to what she just said. I put everyone at the table. We gather around, right? And that's our learning environment. When we walk into that space, that's what we're there to do. We're there to learn, have fun. It's not like I'm tapping on the table with a ruler or anything. We have fun while we're learning. And they're free to explore and all that good stuff. But I start with the oldest kiddo, because I know that it's going to take them the longest to finish their lessons, typically like with math or science, right? Because their lessons are just bigger, Mm-hmm. So I start there and I work my way around so that I'm present, and I make sure that I touch each one of their hearts every day in some form or fashion. Like, I want to be right there in the middle of all of it. Because if you don't, and you start to try to hit everything that's on that list, it's just not going to happen. I've recently had a lot of mommies reach out because of the working mom who is now at home. And then she has the kiddo who is now at home, and she's trying to figure out the working schedule and then the homeschool schedule, and how, because it's like a crash, like Katie was saying, like, I didn't ask for this. And then the kid is like, I didn't ask for this. So you have to find that happy medium. So then I always suggest just setting up a little bit of learning time. If it's going to be, we work 2 hours here, I work 2 hours, you work 2 hours, and I'm there with you. You see what I'm saying? Like, whatever they need to do to make it a happy medium, to make it a compromise for both the parents and the kiddos. Because at the end of the day, there's nothing we can do but try to find the good in it. And, moving forward, how can we do that best? And just a lot of prayer. And as she was saying, the patience, man, you talk about patience. I was taught to never pray for patience. They'll come. And I've seen some of my mommy friends, they're finding their patience, right? With everything that's going on, because it's difficult and it's hard, and it's okay to say, I'm overwhelmed and I need to step away. And those are the moments that, I always, I try to seek God more. I need you to show up, like literally, like I need you to show up. And I encourage my mommy friends to do the same thing, because if not, you'll get to this place where it's like, I'm defeated. And, truly, when you think about it, you taught your babies first. You taught them how to use a spoon or a fork. You taught them, just to speak and to tie their shoes. So you have it. You have the ability. It's in there. Like, God gave it to us naturally. So we just have to find that and pull from that. And that's what I always encourage my mama friends to do, especially in times like these, where it's been forced up on a lot of moms and dads who just didn't, they didn't ask for it.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking too, like every summer we transition out of summer and back into school. And I always try and get my kids to go to bed a little bit earlier and get up a little earlier every day as we do that. And I was even thinking, even though kids aren't going back to school necessarily, it's probably still a good idea for parents to start enforcing an earlier bedtime and an earlier get up time. Because what I hear you saying is that, that gathering spot, that routine of we're starting at this time is important. And I mean, I remember when I was homeschooling, I would think, oh my gosh, it's 10 o'clock and we're finally just getting, the dishes cleaned up and the kitchen, all that, which is part of it too, is they do more chores and that's good. But it's hard to get the day going. Like it's hard sometimes to get, so having that hard stop, I like that little phrase, Katie, that little hard stop of like, okay, this is bedtime and this is get up time and this is gather time, just all of that, like just to kind of, how my husband always says, we just got to push off the shore, when we're trying to get somewhere or we're trying to go camping or whatever, we just got to push off. And it's the same kind of idea with schooling. It feels like you have to push off every day. There has to be a time where you do that. Do you find that having that in bedtime enforcement is important on how your next day goes?
Are you asking me?
Either one.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll jump in here. We used to be like very strict with bedtimes and then the rising right in the morning. Like everyone had to be up and you need to be seated at the table. You need to be, eating your pancakes and drinking your juice because we're going to the schoolroom and we're going to have fun. You know what I mean? And then there I was, hair all pulled up on top of my head, the messy mom bun and all that stuff with my little glistening lips. And then that last baby came along. When Aiden showed up, he rocked our world. And I mean, he's just a little busybody, but he made me open my eyes and see that we have to change some things around here. He likes to hang out late at night. But when he goes to bed, he's good. He's, you don't have to worry about anything. He's out for the count, right? But he sometimes, some mornings he'll wake up at 9, some is 10, but he will come downstairs and say, I'm ready for my breakfast, please, ma'am. And I can already be working with the other kiddos. You know what I mean? Like I found that if I just let them naturally do, now, not saying that we don't say, okay, it's 3 o'clock, and they're up partying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying like my kids were a lot more rebellious or rebelling against the bedtime situation. So when we kind of just said, okay, let's see how it goes, it kind of backfired a little bit because we thought that they would be so tired, like the next day you would think, oh, they're going to be so tired that they'll want to, they'll say, we need our bedtime back. They never asked for it, guys. They never asked for their bedtime back. But I have learned that I get more time with God that way. And I get like the morning conversations, that you have in your head. And I get more scripture time, just jotting down ideas and things that I want, for myself and for our family. I'm still able to sit down and write out prayers for my husband. We've been married almost 19 years and I still try to jot down a little prayer for him every morning as he's going off to work. I know, so sappy. But
I love that though. I love that.
I try to do that for him, but just because I realized that I could slow down a little bit more and it made it so much easier because like I said, with my beautiful mind kiddo, he needs a hardcore schedule. So I had put everyone else on a hardcore schedule and they didn't need it, but they kind of fell in line. You know what I mean? Because they knew that Nathan needed it, but it was taking a toll on me as well, because like when we would go to therapy, because, I'm very open about that. We had to go to therapy and we talked with psychiatrists, a child psychiatrist and a psychologist, so that we could all be on one accord so that we could help him, because I had never parented a child with autism before. Well, I was parenting a child with autism. I just didn't know it. It didn't have a name. I knew there was something that was different, but I didn't know exactly what it was. So I had started to take on and like his traits or characteristics because I was trying to stay ahead. Someone mentioned earlier, staying ahead of the game. Like I wanted to stay ahead and I would be like, okay, I know he's going to want this, this, and this, and I need to do this, this, and this. So it was becoming like this emotional, like I was just a mess because I was trying to have autism and I don't have it. You know what I mean? But because I was trying to do everything for him. So that's what led us to the place of, okay, let's throw out a little bit of the rules. Let's chill and see what happens. Now for Nathan, the rules still applied because he couldn't function. If we say bedtime is at 9:30, then his bedtime is at 9:30. He's 17 now, so that's not the case. But that's what worked best for him. But then the other kiddos, we kind of let them just fall in. And they all just kind of trickle down, like I said, in the morning. Now it's a lot different because Nathan has now moved away from his minute-to-minute scheduling. And we're so grateful for that. We prayed on that for a lot of years because we were nervous about what college would look like. And, you know, just being out in the real world, we've always taught him that he has to make sure that, and I know I'm straying away a little bit from your question, but we always taught him that the world isn't going to change because he has autism. He's going to have to figure out how to navigate this world, you know, that we live in and how it's presented to him, you know, on a daily basis. So now we're away from that scheduling and stuff, but to bring it all back in, once we relaxed a little bit, outside of Nathan, because he had to keep it a little bit tighter, but the other kiddos, they come in and they're ready, guys, like, because they've had what they feel, I guess they're a little bit of freedom, you know what I mean? It's not so much strict as far as the bedtime and the get up time, but the scheduling now, the school thing, when it's time to learn, it's time to learn. So we took away the bedtime, but they understand when we gather around that table in our homeschool room, then we're there to really hit the books and, you know, we're knocking it out the park and then we're going on about our day. So.
Katie, how about you?
Yeah, I tend to be a little bit more structured just because it's my personality, just with my mornings and nights. But I love what Erica's talking about because there is so much freedom in homeschooling. I mean, if you have dynamics where you need it to look different, if you have a husband that doesn't get home from work till late at night and you need to have that time and they need to sleep in the morning, I think sometimes we make the mistake of trying to make school at home. And even though that learning might be the same structure, we have all kinds of freedom. And sometimes we don't even take it. You know, I have friends worrying or freaking out because they didn't finish the last lesson in the math book. And should their kid be held back? I mean, how many times do we do that in school? We get every single lesson complete. So we have to think we have freedom here to do this different, to make it look different from our family, have early mornings if you want them, have late nights. It doesn't have to follow. We don't have to have a bell that rings when our kids transition to subject. We have freedom here. So we have to make the best use of that.
So you tend to be more like everyone gathers at the same time every morning. That's your structure. Because I think it is helpful for people to hear how different people do it.
Yeah. Except for that one kid that likes to get up and going early because she's the list checker. So she gets up early, but we have the hard stop where this is what we're going to do. And I do the same thing in the afternoon. We have lunch and then we have a hard gathering again where I read aloud time. That's just what works for me. And again, it provides that consistency to the day. But when you talk about getting kids back into a structure of going to bed a little earlier, I do the same thing with putting a pencil in their hand. I mean, if I sit down to write 25 thank you notes, my hand is on fire because I'm not used to writing that much physically, right? So I want to transition them into that too. Let's get doing some copy work. This is good for our brains and good for our hands, and just getting them back in the routine of this is what we're going to do, because you throw 7 subjects at them and we're going to sit still from this. I mean, that's crazy. I couldn't handle that. So we just kind of ease into the schooling. They usually get excited when new boxes of curriculum and they're tearing it out. I'm trying to slow them down because this is fun. This is new stuff. It's not fun all year, but at the beginning, they're really excited. So I take what I can of that motivation and keep them rolling with it.
Katie, I want to jump on that read aloud. Can you tell us a little bit how you find read alouds that apply to your 10th grader and also apply to your younger? You know, I think sometimes it's hard to find books that everybody enjoys. So how do you do that? And what are some that you've loved?
I'm constantly looking, keeping notes in my phone, keeping a list on Amazon. Just when I heard Erica was going to be on here, she has some great resources on her page. I was checking out her Instagram. So I'm always taking notes, making notes, but we play to the middle a little bit more often. And then those books that would be just for my 10th grader, Lord of the Rings and Tolkien, I read those with him at night. Like sometimes he's reading them and I'm reading the same one because I missed them or didn't pay attention when I should have been reading them. And so then we're talking about them together. He had Chuck Colson on his list. Was it Born Again? Last year, and I was like, oh, I never read that book. I get excited to read them. So some are separate, you know, just with the older kids. And then the younger ones, man, we love Andrew Peterson. We love the Green Ember series. We love C.S. Lewis. It's kind of endless, just making notes. And sometimes, you know, I'll find the 8-year-old isn't paying attention, and he's come up to me after reading time and said, I got playing, because he can have a little toy to play with during that time. And he'll say, I got playing and didn't pay attention. Will you please? I don't want to be behind. Will you read that to me separately? Just a learning tool for him to like sit and pay attention to a little harder literature, but we kind of play toward the middle. And if you get a good book, it doesn't really matter their age. I'm enthralled in it. Like I'm the one telling myself to put the book away. So that's really quality bonding time right there.
So that's so great. How about you, Erica? How do you meet some of the older kids on the read aloud stuff when older kids you kind of feel like they're maybe growing out of read alouds?
Right. So I am a lover of books, people. Let's talk about books. Now, I am a certified book sniffer. That is my thing. I haven't been able to sniff them very much when they've been rolling in here lately because, I'm still, afraid of the virus and all that stuff roaming around in the streets. My kids call it Miss Rona. So I was trying not to say that, but that's what my kids call it. They say, well, Miss Rona is still out there. So, but picture books. We love picture books. I am a huge supporter of introducing gentle truth history to our kiddos through picture books. And when I say gentle truth, I mean not watered down truth. I want the real deal, and I want my kiddos to be able to take it to a good place. I want them to be able to internalize it, because in order to know where we're going, I feel like we have to know where we've been. And, with recent events, just the atmosphere, specifically in the United States, when my kiddos ask me why this is so, then I want them to be able to, fall back on a good piece of history. And like I said, take it to a good place. So it has to be gentle, for the younger kiddos. But picture books are my jam, because picture books, typically the art is there, and your kiddos, I say yours, but my kiddos just eat them up. From the 17-year-old down to the 7-year-old, even the puppy gets in on the picture books. My husband is there for the picture books. If I'm reading a picture book, they just all stop dead in their tracks, because it's something about the art, and you can really transplant. It's almost like traveling back in time, and you're sitting in a courtroom and you're listening to these things being said and being read aloud. And they always that's their thing. So my kids don't really like, when it's read aloud time, they're ready, no matter what we're reading. But if it's a picture book, oh, they're really ready. And then we get into the classics and things like that as well. But if you look at my shelf, the majority, even on, like the book list and everything that Katie was talking about, like with just the diverse reads and things like that, the majority, it's picture books. There are some biographies that we read aloud, because I feel like, we start the littles, with their early biographies and things like that. But for the most part, as a family, it's picture books. And Daddy can't read like I can, okay? I'm the read aloud queen, okay? So that's what
just being clear.
Yeah, just being clear.
Yeah. Okay, Erica, so you've got some lists people can access on your website that we can link to, correct?
Yes, we do. We have, and I say we because let me tell you, that type A personality, I know I might not seem like the typical, but I had to let some things go, okay? Like I said, with the bedtimes and things like that. But guys, I went into like this prayer, like this beast mode. I had been out at a homeschool convention. I presented out in Utah. And, I kept being approached saying, hey, or, cause I don't fit the mold for someone living in Utah. So, and especially when I open my mouth, they hear this Southern drawl, right? And so they're like, okay, well, let's see what she's about. Are you here for some diversity? What are you doing here? And at first I was like taken aback by it. Like, I can't just come to the convention and present. But then I realized that there was like this need for it. And so I sat down and I prayed about it. And guys, when I started with that book list, it started out, I said, okay, I'm going to list 20 books and I'm going to walk away. That thing turned into over 230 books with descriptions. It's over 30 pages. And it's just full of goodness. And I'm going back now to update it, because I want to grab that young adult crowd, like we were talking about, the youth, as far as bringing in that genre. But I do have a little bit of everything for everyone. Again, my heart is picture books, because I feel like they can tell a story. Sometimes you can look at pictures and then our kiddos can just write a creative story just looking at the picture, so they can find those things over on my blog at mybusybeesandme.com. And YouTube is, our hangout spot. So if you really want to get to know us and see how we're, tossing all these things into the mix, a little bit more detailed on the schedule and things like that, because I use more of a block scheduling system. And I think, Katie, you were saying that you use more of is it broken down into blocks, or how do you roll yours out? Is it just, are you doing like a 10 to 12, or, you know what I'm saying, or 8 to 4, and you kind of roll it all in there? I'm sorry, did I take over your question, Krista?
You're good. You're good.
So I just want people to understand that there are so many ways, as far as homeschooling goes too, that with the scheduling thing, that you can just make it work. We do night schooling, guys, weekend schooling, whatever. My husband's way better at the techie side of the house than I am. So he comes in and he's like, okay, who wants to do coding? And the kids are like, me. And I'm like, I've been teaching y'all all day. And no one was that excited to learn anything. And then he comes in, you know what I'm saying? And he's like, who wants to do coding? And, you know, but that's their thing with him. So I appreciate him for jumping in there. But I want this to come across, you know, like we can be as different as we want to be as far as scheduling goes, as long as we get it in. That's all that I'm trying to convey today. I don't know. I can't speak for Katie, but just to get it all in. But yeah, we were not even talking about scheduling, but girl, I just had to throw that in there.
Okay, I love it. And that quote has never been said at my house. Who wants to learn about coding? That has never, ever been said in our household. Just saying. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the relationship when you go from being mom to being teacher. And again, even if there's online, like even if people are doing online schooling, they have teachers, but at the same time, you're still having to put on that hat a little bit, even if they have online teachers right now. So how do you kind of balance that of like wearing these different hats and having those different roles? And I've heard some people talk about they get so stressed about schooling that then it negatively impacts their relationship with their child. So maybe speak to that specifically. Katie, why don't you jump in?
Yeah, that can happen, particularly as our kids get older. You know, usually in the younger years, it's a natural transition, but as they get older, it does get harder. I can tell you with my oldest teen, I have my husband be the principal on those things. And that's been a good thing to have a male behind me because I do most of the schooling. If I get stuck on math, then that's when my husband comes in. But it's also, he's accountable to him for where he's at. And so if there are issues, it's taken up between my husband and him. And so like little things during the day, and I'll give my husband a report on this is how it's going. And that transition probably happened about when he's 13, he's 15 now. And that became a better, I don't know, just relationally, it was better between the two of us. And we also are a part of a co-op that he goes to once a week. And so he hands in papers there. So that gives him another level of accountability. But it can be hard because during the day, it's me that's there. So I make the most of those, like we're toggling mentally between mom and teacher. And I make the most of those read aloud times. I'm mom then, right? I'm not trying to get this assignment done at a certain time. If we go outside for a walk, I'm mom then. I can turn it off. And this is a break where I'm just doing mom things with them. So I try to keep that straight in my head, that there's fun in it. There's got to be the accountability, but there's got to be the joy too. And so if I'm coming at this stressed out, that's probably an issue between me and the Lord. Okay, if you called me to this, I'm not going to be threadbare here. You're going to give me enough. I'm going to trust you to be enough, because if I'm stressed out, that's all just going to pour out on my kids, right? They're going to pick up on that, and the tension, I'm just ready to fire because there's not much left to give. So I've got to be good with the Lord and know that if you're going to provide for me here, I'm going to go into this with confidence, knowing that this is enough. If my barometer is faithfulness, I'm showing up with a happy heart, like hands wide open. I'm going to do the best I can. And that's, yeah, if we check all the boxes or we don't, but relationship that's success to me. Like that's, what do I want out of this? I want to, at the end of the day, my kid might not get an A in math, but I want him to know the Lord, and I want him to know his mom loves him. His mom didn't lose it over him today. We don't perfect that every day, but that's the sanctifying priceless. We get to work at this. This is what matters most. And I want to nail, if anything, I want to nail the relationship with my kids.
Mm-hmm. So good. Erica, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, I was just thinking, as Katie was, as my Grammy would say, I'm sorry, I was raised by my Grammy. So everything, you know, I have all these Grammyisms in my head, but I was thinking to myself, that thing will preach what she just said, because she was telling it like it is. At the end of the day, that's what's important, is that relationship. I also have this thing with my kiddos, because early, we always homeschooled, right? We were like part-time while I was still working in the classroom and like out in the communities. And then like part-time means that my kids were pretty much doing double work. Like I didn't like what they were being given in school, and I was like, not enough. We're going to be doing some more stuff at home. So they were always part-time. So they were familiar with me being in that role. But they started to call me Miss Mommy. So most of the time, like when we're schooling, I've noticed that they'll say, Miss Mommy, or, you know, like if it's something school related. So then, you know, I show up and I'm in my happy teacher mommy voice, you know what I'm saying? So they've kind of taken on the role of helping me differentiate between the two. You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't like a hard jump for them, but I can tell you that it is a process, because I'm watching one of my girlfriends that, gosh, we've been friends since like kindergarten. But I'm watching her go through it now. And she was like, I am not homeschooling my kids. Like, I'll send them to you first before I homeschool them. But she's now, you know, because she was having issues just getting that attention or getting them to pay attention as mommy is stepping into this role, because that's not what kids are used to. That's not what her kids are used to. No, you're my mom. You bake the cookies, you know, you do my laundry, but are you qualified to teach me? You know what I mean? And she's very well educated, but they had her second guessing who she was as a person. And I said, no, ma'am. Now you know how to pray. And so we're going to pray you through this. And she started to realize that it's a lot if you just, that the patience has to be there, right? And as she was saying, Katie was saying, like, when you say, okay, Jesus, now you stuck me out here. Are you going to send a boat or something to pick me up? You know what I mean? Like, I'm here and you told me to do it. You said I could do it, but I'm going to need a little bit of help. And so now she's starting to get through it and everything is looking better, but it took time, because when the whole shutdown happened, I thought I was going to have to go to Alabama and pick up those babies, because she was just like, I'm not having it. Like, they just wouldn't listen. But, you know, through the prayer and just figuring out those different roles. And for her kiddos, it is okay for your kiddos to know that you are smart and what kind of smarts you have. Sometimes, and this is just, you know, between us, I know it's going on YouTube, but I've said it on YouTube before, but I've had people look at me and stereotype me just because I'm married to a soldier and I have, you know, we have a lot of babies, and they just say, okay, well, you're just a stay-at-home mom, you know, just a stay-at-home mom. They don't realize that, you know, no, I graduated. I have as many degrees as he has, because I wasn't going to let him outdo me. You know what I mean? Like, every time my husband got a degree, I got one too, because I wanted my kiddos to, I didn't want to ask them to do anything that I myself had, you know, that I have not done. I want them to, you know, I want them to outdo whatever, you know, bars I set or standards for myself. And I think that's just, you know, that's common for, you know, parents. You want your kiddos to always do better. But so, like, being in that role, sometimes kids, you know, they switch it around and they say, but you can't do this because you're mommy. You're not the teacher. You're just mommy. And so you have to be able to pull them back in and show them, hey, I'm just as smart, you know, or daddy goes to work, so mommy doesn't have money. Like, Aiden told me that the other day, you know, no, I need to get my money from daddy. You don't have money because you don't go to work. And I mean, he's 7, but it's practical. He doesn't see me leave the house. So he thinks, well, you know, mommy doesn't have money because he knows that I don't work, you know, outside of the home. So sometimes it's the simple approach and just meeting the babies where they are, letting them know that this is the role that I'm stepping into. It might be a short-term thing. It might be a long-term thing, but this is what we're going to do now moving forward. And we need to make the best of it. So did that answer your question?
No, that's great. I appreciate that. I was just thinking, I mean, some moms, I like what you were saying about that she kind of needed to get her voice back a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I guess my encouragement would be that to parents who find themselves in this, that, you know, to really get your voice back. And we just had a series on really just about your voice in the world and how to exercise your voice in the world. And it's called Honing Your Voice, that we did this summer. And so I would encourage parents to go back and listen to that series just as they are learning to do that in this new schooling environment too. So, okay, let's talk about what to do when you feel like you're not doing enough, because I think we feel that way as moms, period. But then now that we're in charge of, for some people, schooling for the first time, definitely that's going to happen. So how do you fight that in your own life, Katie?
Well, I mentioned it earlier, but just really the barometer of faithfulness, because there's so many things. What a great thing to want to give your kids everything, to want to teach them everything. And it's been interesting for me to talk to moms who've had kids go off to college and they're still having that, oh my goodness, I didn't teach them this, or their manners good enough. Like, I don't think you're ever going to be at the place where you launch a kid and you're like, I nailed it. Like, I just nailed it. You know? It's just not reality. So every day, I mean, then when you break that down to the daily, there are some days where we're like, wow, there was classical music on and we were painting. And that's how I thought every day would be as homeschooling. You know, half the time the house is almost a bomb, because I had a friend who just started homeschooling, and she talked to me and she said, you never told me homeschooling was going to be this messy. Because when you're there all day and all the books,
Yes.
I mean, it can really explode. So it's just a barometer of faithfulness. But did I teach them what they needed to teach? They needed to learn? You know, when you talk about that honing your voice with your kids, if you have a respect issue with your child and they're not obedient to you, then that's probably the first thing we need to work on, right? That's an important thing. So this isn't going to happen overnight. And that's the hard thing about listening to Erica and I. We've been doing this for a while. So we've honed some of those things, but it didn't happen instantly. And then your kid, I mean, even if you get it down, then your kid's in a new season and they're frustrated. So then we have to work on it again. And remember, this is the important thing. Like, I need this kid to trust me as the authority that God has given them. And so I'm honoring the Lord by teaching them, and then they're going to honor the Lord by obeying me. That's an important thing to do. So basically for me, it's just faithfulness. Like, I have kids that aren't awesome spellers, and there's times I could stare at that and think, oh my goodness, what's going to happen to them? Well, thank the Lord for spell check, but we're going to keep working on it. And they might be awesome at some things and they're not going to be awesome at other things. And that's fine. Like, that's how this is the creativity and the world God has given us. So I'm going to be faithful and I'm going to keep on trucking along. And even if it seems like we're not making progress, I know that fruit grows slow. And then sometimes it's just having someone to speak that perspective into you, because it's when we're looking too close that we get that not enough. Like, I just wasted my day. Well, you might have spent 2 hours working on this, like, really quality time with the kid. And they might be learning about one specific, like, Erica was mentioning earlier, when we're studying something so specifically, they might fail a test on a broad spectrum because we studied bats for like a month and we know everything there is to know about bats. So I'm not going to go on someone else's scale. I'm going to go like right where we are. This is what we're doing right now. And I'm going to trust the Lord that it's going to get them where they need to go. So, I mean, we need to be good stewards of the time we have. So we're not just tossing it like, whatever, this is faithfulness, I got dressed today. No, that's not it. I want to give my kids a quality education. I want to know some standards for, like, what should this look like? What are my state standards? What does a scope and sequence look like? But then I'm just going to go about it, and we're going to do a good job today. And then we're going to get up and we're going to do a good job tomorrow. And whatever that looks like in the end, I'm going to trust the Lord with that.
Mm-hmm. So great. Erica, how would you answer that question about not feeling like you're doing enough or are enough in that moment?
I'm sorry. That was the funniest thing. I mean, just listening to you, because I've been there, sister. I've been like, yes, yes, yes. I just want to say high five. Yeah. But I try to give myself and my peeps that I hang out with over on YouTube, where it's just virtual, but there's still a connection there. Like the did three. Like, did I accomplish my big three? And I call it I did three things. And it can be, like she was saying, your house might look like a bomb went off, because guess what? You built a bomb and it literally exploded in your kitchen, like with whether it's, the lava flying out of a volcano or whatever it is you have going on. So for me, it was, okay, I need to make sure that I'm getting something done in the house. I need to really make sure that the education is there, and that relationship, that family unit, we need that to stay, tight, because we're a military family. So when we move, our kiddos look at us as home. Where mom and dad are, that's where home is. And so we want to make sure that this marriage of ours is God-centered, and this little family unit that we have is God-centered as well. So those are the things that we focus on. But for mommies in particular, it has to be like, you have to have like the things that are non-negotiable, I guess, that you want to get done. And for me, it's I did those three things. If I have done those three things, then I am good. It is well with my soul today. And then you just keep moving, because, it can be a lot. And so just in this season that you're in, a season will pass, you know what I'm saying? So, and I have to say that I feel that God is readying you for something even bigger and greater. He's not going to take you through all of this stuff, through this storm and the rain, and not have, a rainbow at the other side. So.
Thank you. So good. Well, I hate that we are running up against time, because this is such a great conversation. Katie, you just launched a book, and it's about really stepping into this idea of being brave and choosing brave, like actually choosing it, which is such an important concept, I think, as we look at this climate and schooling in particular. So can you speak a little bit to your new book and how it applies to what we're talking about today?
Yeah, when you write a book, you sign a contract a couple of years before it actually comes out. So it's kind of extraordinary to know that it came out in this season. And I've had friends say that this is not the best time to launch a book because sales are down. But I guess if I was writing a book about how to decorate cupcakes, that might be different. But to talk about what is a biblical foundation for courage? What does it look like to live with holy courage? What does it look like to fear the Lord here in this season when we're not choosing the hard things? They're all coming at us, but we have a choice to make here. And that's exactly what you're talking about today, whether we're going to throw up our hands, whether we're going to be frustrated at the schools, at the way things are playing out, and we're stressed out, like that's going to pour out to our children. Or look, this is a hard thing and we have a choice to make. This summer I was with my kids and my husband surprised me. I turned 40 and he rented a beach house and the kids all knew about it. So we're going to go to the beach house as a big surprise. And on the way, our car has troubles, our car with no troubles. The transmission goes out, which is no small thing, right? And so everyone's starting to melt down and my husband's temperature is rising with the car. And this isn't going to work so well. The kids are asking me, what's going to happen? And I'm starting to feel it too. But as a mom, like you control so much of the climate and what's going on. And so I just bit my tongue and took a deep breath and turned around and told them, like, I don't really know. I don't really know if we're going to make it to the beach. I don't know if we're going to get a hotel in this town. We don't even know where we are. I don't know if we're going to go home, but dad has a week off work. So we're going to have fun. I can promise you this is going to be fun. And that's a decision. That's a choice we have in front of us right now. Like, this isn't what I chose. I don't even really like it. That's okay. This is hard, but we can use it as an invitation to, like, God's got a plan for us here and we're going to dive into it. And we're going to see this homeschooling thing with these computers that I don't really know how to use very well, whatever that is. Like, we have a choice to make and that's going to impact our kids. Like you said earlier, for years to come. This is really important time. So I think it's a timely book, a timely message.
Such a timely book. So great, Katie. We are so excited about your book and we will be linking directly to it in the show notes so people can quickly find it because it's a must read, everyone. I'm just telling you, it's a must read. Erica, any last words that you have for people today?
When I listen to Katie talking, I think of bravery, just being brave as a mom and, trying to be the center, because as the mom, you're the heartbeat of the house, whether you know it or not. You have the ability to pray people away from your doorstep. You know what I mean? Like, if you feel like they're not going to bring in something good and kind, you know what I mean? So when I think of bravery, I kind of put that in line with faith. Like, I have to be brave. I have to put on that full armor, right? Not this part, I'm not going to put on the head armor and not put on the body armor. You know what I mean? Like, I have to put on that full armor. And then in this season, I'm going to have to tell that storm to bring it on, but I'm going to have the faith, right? To know that God is going to push me through. You know what I'm saying? Pull me through that storm. So, this too, it will pass, this whole, like I told my friend, weeping may endure for the night. But, in the morning, I promise you, joy is going to be there. She was like, well, is it going to be tomorrow morning? But that, she's there now. She's in, a more joyful space. So, yeah, that's it. You can do it. God gave you these babies. It's different now, but in this season, you can do it.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you both so much for coming on today. This has been just absolutely delightful to hear from you and to hear your wisdom. I mean, truly, it's just wisdom pouring from your mouths, and it's from years of faithfulness and experience. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We wish you both the best in this year of schooling. And moms, we are with you. And so check these women out. Go to their websites. They are always talking about these things. They know exactly what they're talking about. And also just know that here at the Sisterhood, we are committed to helping you through this time. So come to us, message us. We're here for you. All right, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.